Okay, I'll start again. I'd like to welcome everybody here to our anniversary celebration of the No Nickel for Genocide group. This is our we actually had 10 forums over the course of the year. We didn't have one in January, and we didn't have one in October. I wasn't feeling too well. But we've actually, I think we should all give ourselves a clap because we've we've made actually quite accomplishment. And I have here, I'm not sorry, maybe Adnan can
Yeah, I'll do it.
pass those around.
Sure.
This is our second little booklet. It is not finished, but it is informed that I can see that within a few weeks it will be finished, and we could get it printed. Ran into a little bit of a roadblock 2 or 3 months ago. We've accumulated all, like, here's the 2 binders of documents that I have and written up and AI stuff. And I got about 15 binders full of internet articles that I printed out. And I got a little bit overwhelmed because I turned this into a book. It was going to be 500 pages plus. So it was going to cost $50, and I would have to print up out of lots, and it wasn't going to work. Had a second idea. Well, break it up into smaller parts, and that would have worked. That's okay, but a couple of weeks ago, I had an idea to just go through everything I had and take out the sort of theses. Not so much worry about did Valley make X number of dollars profit last year, or did they produce 82,000 tons of nickel? We don't need that. I mean, we can have that there. We got all that. What we need to do is start summing up the relationships, the important things. So we started. We introduced this book last November. And some of the things we said were that nickel was a vital war material, especially in the 2 world wars, that Sudbury would not have developed in the way it did if nickel hadn't been discovered, if a metallurgical process to separate nickel from copper hadn't been found, and if a market hadn't been developed to sell the nickel with the development of the nickel steel armor cladding on the battleships and dreadnoughts of the time. And we talked about how the war preparations had distorted the way that Sudbury had developed. Economically, it was boom. There was a likelihood of war, lost where they had peace. Politically, it had its effect. It affected the environment because have the roast heaps of the smelters didn't need to worry about the local farmers. When the farmers sued Inco in 1915, the judge says there's no way he's fighting against Inco because the nickel is needed so much in the war. And anyway, we discussed that last week on the first session.
We also discussed how all Sudbury does is pull it out of the ground, basically.
Pardon?
We also discussed about how Sudbury just basically pulls it out of the ground, and then the high value processing happens elsewhere, which is dumb.
Yeah, like if there's one thing to take about that is that the decisions regarding the nickel industry in Sudbury, uh, production, the amount of production, where to produce, where to sell, was all made by the foreign mining monopolies right from the very beginning. The Canadian Copper Company wasn't Canadian, it was an American. Inco, Mond, Falconbridge, Vale, Glencore, they've all been foreign mining monopolies who have made decisions governing what happens in Sudbury on the basis of the needs or desires of those mining monopolies. And like the people of Sudbury have never had the power to make that decision as to not only what and where and who would do the mining, but what do we do with the mining products that are dug up and brought to the surface? What the mining monopolies have done is they've just decided to have as little as possible processing in Sudbury. There's a whole history of a fight to get nickel refineries in Canada from the time of the First World War. And like if you look at the flow chart, the development of the nickel industry in Canada, you see that we get as far as exporting the nickel. Canada does not produce any significant amounts of nickel alloys. There's a break. It's shipped to the U.S., to Germany, to Japan for processing, and then a little bit
And then shipped back
is shipped back to Canada as needed.
at 50
But
cents.
the ability to develop a nickel industry and a metallurgical industry beyond just basic steel stems from nickel. We talked about how nickel is still a vital war material, how the nature of nickel or nature of the use of nickel had changed. At first, it was sort of armor plate, and then over time, it was developed as parts and components of other war equipment like tanks and airplanes, especially engines, track systems, landing gear. There is a missile that has nickel in. Leave it alone. Hangars, wings, and structural parts. The propulsion systems. Anyway, there's. We looked at these pictures. I've kept a few of them. I limited a few of them. It shows how nickel is used as a vital component in every every major weapon system in some way or the other. Like after the Second World War, the development in the science of war was such that the artillery or missiles were able to penetrate even the hardest and thickest armor plating. So warfare developed, or ship armaments developed, not so much to have massive amounts of armor, but just a couple of inches of armor to protect the crew from small arms fire and shrapnel. And what they lost in protection, they gained in speed and maneuverability. Anyway, we looked at quite a bit of that information about how nickel is still a vital war material. I don't want to repeat everything I said.
Well, I like you're really up to date. You got the Crawford project on page 25.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I had the Crawford project 6 months ago when we talked about it. I might have changed what I said about it a little bit.
We'd actually talked about this for.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it's green. It's an open pit. They tell you all the pluses compared to Sudbury, which is more carbon intensive.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Second biggest in the world too.
This one is Crawford.
Crawford. Unbelievable.
Wow. It would be big.
Very low grade.
Oh, low grade. Okay.
Really.
It's Sudbury's 2%. It's 0.2%.
Good point.
Um,
I like your research.
yeah. Anyway. Okay, the next thing we talked about was the global economy. And the thing to notice about that is, first of all, that nickel production, which was mainly in Canada and Sudbury at the end of the Second World War, had switched to, for mine production, Indonesia, and for nickel processing, China. And like part of what I was also conclude from that is that, like I say, at the period of the Second World War, almost all nickel from Canada went into the U.S., into the Great Lakes states to be manufactured in the weapons of war. Well, the amount of nickel that was needed for war equipment may have decreased since, like, well, in the Second World War, the U.S. had 100,000 tanks. Now they have 2,500. They didn't have all the nickel on the armor plating of the ships of the time, and they have fewer ships. So the amount of nickel has decreased, but as far as I can see, that the Sudbury nickel is still the nickel that feeds the U.S. armaments industry, mainly through Valley. It goes through Buffalo and Detroit and into the Great Lakes state, but also a certain amount through Glencore, which is shipped from Falconbridge to Norway for refining and mainly consumed in Europe, but a certain amount, small amount, about 10,000 tons to ship back to the U.S. But like, even I think this is an important point. Like, even though like the world nickel industry has increased about 20 times since the end of the World War, and mostly that has been for domestic production and not military production. Sudbury nickel has sort of kept its old traditional markets, and it's the anyway. That's my thesis. In terms of China, China seems to use most of this nickel for domestic or civilian projects like EV batteries. But they do produce a certain amount of class 1 nickel, which would be used for armaments and that. And the information is largely hidden, or at least I haven't looked into it yet. Okay, I'm trying to again hit the main points and not just repeat everything.
You're doing a good job.
One of the things I think next to look at is DFARS and ITAR and the other US regulatory bodies which control the use of raw materials for as a in the component of the manufacturing of weapons. In order to be DFAR compliant, and DFAR stands for defense, blah, 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 blah. I can look it up for you if you want. Something has to be either produced in the United States itself, and that could be either new material or scrap. If it was scrap that originated in Canada, it's scrapped in the States, is considered American. In terms of imported nickel, only nickel that can be imported into the US for military purposes comes from Canada.
Yeah.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're talking
It comes from Canada. Norway, which sounds like it's a different country, but it's nickel from Sudbury and from Raglan smelted in Sudbury goes to Norway for refining, and then as I said, some of it gets shipped back to the US and Australia. So there's only 3 countries besides the US where the US will use nickel for armaments, and most of that is Canada. It's only Australia is only about 10,000 tons or so, and Norway, it comes from Canada originally anyway. So and Vic Fidel, like there was last March, the Canadian Consul General in New York, I can't forget his name, made a statement on ABC News, TV, I think it was, that 60% of the nickel used by the U.S. Department of Defense to build weapons came from Canada. And a couple of weeks later, Vic Fideli, you may know him, used to be the mayor of New York.
North Bay.
Pardon?
North Bay.
Yeah, from North Bay. He's the MPP for Nipissing. He's he's a minister for economic development and jobs. Excuse me if I haven't quite got it right.
They don't do anything anyways.
Anyway, he says that 56% of the nickel used by the U.S. Department of Defense was from Ontario, while Ontario is Sudbury. So we may not know exactly. We may not be able to say if it's 41 or 57 or whatever, but we know a lot of it comes from Sudbury. And that's something we have to take up.
Just out of curiosity, are they planning on mining nickel at the Ring of Fire?
Are they planning?
Yeah.
Yes, they are mining chromium, but they are like nickel is one of the metals that are there. When that nickel gets exported from Canada and goes into the States, and it has to go to a DFARS compliant manufacturing facility. There's only 4 nickel manufacturing facilities in the US that are DFAR compliant. Special Metals, Haynes International, Carpenter Technology, and ATI. Oh, which reminds me, one of the things I wanted to go back and talk about was both with the global industry was the ownership.
Mm.
The ownership of the 5 main mining diversified mining monopolies: Vale, Glencore, Rio Tinto, Anglo American, and BHP. There are 3 huge asset management companies: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard Group. BlackRock manages $12.5 trillion worth of assets under management. State Street is almost as much, and Vanguard isn't too far behind, or it may be the other way around. But they own between them about 20% of the different mining monopolies. They own, in terms of these 4 nickel alloy producers in the US, they own shares in, there's 2 they don't own in, and 2 they do, and 2 are privately owned. One by Berkshire Hathaway, and one by a Spanish stainless steel company, which is one of the huge ones. And like when we get later and talk about the armaments manufacturers in the U.S., these 5, these 3 these 3 big asset management companies, they control a big chunk of them too. They control everything pretty well. And they don't, it's Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett. Anyway, so that's another point that we've made out how these asset management companies really control things. They may only have 6, 8, 10, 12% of the shares, but that's enough to get them a seat on the board and get all the information. And if they don't like what the company is doing, they have a huge financial power to put pressure on these. They may seem small to in this sense, but they're billion-dollar companies. So anyway, we looked also, and I think this was very important, is the nickel supply chain in different weapon systems. And I plan to go through a bunch of them on the U.S. Side of things. I haven't done very much on this little pamphlet so far, but I'm going to incorporate it in. Generally speaking, you have nickel smelting refining in Canada, Sudbury. Nickel alloying, I'm not really at any page. Nickel alloying at those 4 US places: Special Metals, Haynes International, Carpenter Technology, and ATI. Then you have weapons parts and components manufacturers. You may take like the nickel alloy bars or wire or billets or pipe or whatever form it's in, and use it as raw materials in the construction of some part or some aspect of a tank or an airplane or whatever. Um, and those companies are quite often subsidiaries of the Big Five, U.S. Armaments Production. They're also while there's 41 of the 100 largest armaments manufacturing companies are American. Once you get past the Big Five, they tend to be suppliers of parts and components for the big companies. Um, and then finally, final assembly by the main contractor, usually one of the Big Five, and delivery to the U.S. Air Force or to the Israeli Air Force or whoever. My hearing aid is falling out. Okay. There will be quite a bit of information on here on these nickel supply chains for these various important weapon systems, which are, and I picked the ones that were being used in Gaza and in the attack on Iran and that. You can go through the details of them here. They will be improved quite a bit. Um, um, the last thing I think I wanted to sort of mention in terms of this introduction is to talk about some of the conclusions in terms of what we should do or what we can do about nickel being used for war and not peace. One of the things is possible. One of the things to understand is that when you have a mineral object like copper or nickel, as opposed to an organic object like coffee or cotton or whatever, you can only do it once. You can only mine it once. You can only dig it out of the ground and get rid of it once. If you're growing coffee or peanuts or whatever, good farming practices, you can get a crop every year. Maybe you let it go fallow every now and then. So anyway, the point is, if I can only dig up these metals once, we should get the most we possibly can out of them. So when we talk about no nickel for genocide, some backward people think that means, well, we don't have war. Sudbury will die because we don't have an economic base and all that. Not true. Not true. There are other things we can do. Some things are simple or simpler. Like we can make Falconbridge refine its nickel in Sudbury, be not in Norway. That would create a few jobs. We could try to improve markets, especially in Europe and Asia or anywhere besides the US. That will create a few jobs. But
Well, they think what they assume is that we're anti digging stuff up. We're not. We're just saying we want to dig the stuff up, but we don't want it to be used to kill kids, right?
or grown-ups.
Sorry?
Or grown-ups.
Or grown-ups, yeah, of course, yeah. And we don't, and furthermore, right? We want the jobs when it comes to, processing it into high value products, we want the jobs to stay where we dug it up, which is Sudbury, right? So like you see like, the colleges and even the universities, right? They're hemorrhaging jobs because uh they're the Canadian government has basically lowered the number of international students, right? Well, so those people, right, are losing their jobs, right? But if we had if we were able to process and create products with the nickel or whatever material we're digging up in Sudbury, then, number one, that's a bigger tax base, right? And number two, right, uh, that's more jobs, all right, in general. Nice.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you're risking going too far, but the argument that potentially against, what Adnan is saying, because it sounds very logical, but, it's the same reason why they don't have, petroleum processing plants in Canada, why we ship our petroleum to Texas, the same reasons that, the nation they're attacking in South America right now,
Venezuela.
Venezuela's doing the same thing. They have to ship their oil to Texas as well. It's the only place that actually processes it. And they say the problem is that when you have the nickel and you're making it here, you don't have the parts makers who are building the airplanes here, and they want them being processed and turned into those parts where Boeing is, where they're, and then right where they can ship them immediately from there straight out. They say the same thing in Canada. If you have raw crude oil here, you can put it in trains, you can put it in pipelines, and you can ship it. If you turn it into gasoline or diesel, you can't do that. It will explode. It's too flammable. Whereas, what happened in Quebec there, I think that wasn't crude, that was fracked oil, and that's a whole different thing. In Canada, it's crude, and we can ship it that way. If we turn it into more processed products, then we have a much more difficult time because we're too far away.
Right. And not just that, though. Not just that. I mean, if you want to take a look at it from like even a national security perspective, right? If the United States threatens to invade us, right? And like, it already did, then and all we can do is dig up the material, right? That's all we can do, right? Then we don't have access to the products that are made with that material.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And furthermore, right, that even if they didn't threaten to invade us, right, which they did, all right, they did threaten to invade us, we're buying those same products that are made with the nickel at 100 times what we sold it to them, right?
Yeah, like in terms of the nickel industry, there's a hole when it comes to nickel leaving Canada. Like we don't have control over the decision making as to how nickel is used. And the nickel companies for 100 and a century and a quarter have just assumed that this is theirs and they can do whatever the frick they want to, and that what is good for Sudbury and using it to develop an economic base and all-around economy is being left out. When like we can in Sudbury we mine, smelt, and refine nickel, but we don't do any manufacturing, any alloy making. So if we set up a if we set up a nickel alloying processing business,
Yeah.
that would create jobs. We could produce, create the one more step in the manufacturing process before we export it. Can we produce the nickel shapes once we got those alloys? The wire and the bar and the pipe and the
Yeah.
billets, I forget all the names.
No, and it brings more businesses. in.
It's called value added.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stainless steel,
Right.
like, they're talking about, certain forms of nickel for, EV batteries. A lot of that is going into batteries in China. There are a large number of things, like nickel is produced is a component part of over 300,000 commodities in this world. Only a few thousand of them are military. Most of them are domestic or civilian. Therefore, it could be a stainless steel knife and fork, or scalpel. It could be propellers on a boat.
Car bodies,
Pardon?
car bodies, a lot of the auto industry.
Yeah, it can. There are a huge number of potential uses for nickel, but we in Canada don't take any. We don't have any decision-making power. It's the money monopoly decided. They've always sold it mainly to the big armaments manufacturers, and they want to keep on. And Vivian Laplante and the Liberal government don't want to have to deal with it.
Steve would like to say a word.
Pardon?
Steve would like to say a word. Steve Rudzinski.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the point you're touching on, Dave, you've touched on a couple of times, and I think it's really important. That has to do with decision-making power, because I want to make two points in this regard. One is the experience that Sudbury has in terms of extraction of nickel and its significance and importance in all kinds of manufacturing, and especially in military manufacturing. The Canadian government, Carney, now is arguing, so is all the provincial governments, Ford as well, that their agenda for dealing with the economic situation that we're facing is to increase the extraction of resources. It's one of the main things that they're talking about, and increasing military production by taking money out of all kinds of social services, from healthcare to education. It's got to come from somewhere. It's going to come out of those social programs to pay for the increase in military budget. So Carney is pitching, and so is Ford, things like the extraction from the Ring of Fire, for example, has to go ahead without any interruption, without regard for the rights of the Indigenous people, without regard for the rights of the environment, that this has to happen, and it has to happen unimpeded. And they're promising, Carney's promising, Ford's promising, this will create jobs. And I think that the experience that Sudbury has with decades and decades and decades of being the key producer of this commodity in the whole world. And the fact is, it did not produce jobs, it did not produce stability or a livelihood for the people in the North. In fact, if anything, we know the number of people working in the industry has significantly declined from the days when I was in Sudbury in the 60s and 70s. So it's there, a whole fraud is being pushed in Canada, that by expediting resource extraction, that this is, and making Canada a powerhouse of resource extraction, that this is a path to economic stability and economic growth, and raising the well-being and living standards of the people. In fact, the experience of Sudbury and the experience of nickel extraction is really an important example for people. The other thing that I think is really important when we're talking about decision-making power, and I thought was very significant in what you brought out in the following the military production and how nickel is used for that, and who owns these 5 main military producers in the US. They're also the same billionaire slush funds that are also principal investors in the supply chain as well. It's the control and the decision-making power is out of our hands. But you also in the research that you did, which came out before Albanese published her work documenting where she charged collective genocide of all of the corporations, all of the financial institutions, our pension funds, Canadian pension funds, both private and public, frankly, how they're all integrated into the war machine that's committing genocide against the Palestinians. And nobody has any decision. We don't have any decision-making power over our pensions. We don't have any decision-making power over which companies they invest in, what they do with our money. We don't have, so even if you address the problem of that, yes, we should have more production of value-added value-added processes in the chain of command of a chain of production for nickel. The fact is, even if we do that, that product is going to be directed towards military production because we don't have any say over that. So there's a real, the things that you brought out in your research, to me, really underscored that, and Albanese underscored it in her report to the United Nations when she charged genocide against all of these corporations. So when we're talking about what can be done, I think that going back to my first point, just addressing the lie that is being told by the governments of Canada and Ontario and others that this agenda of resource extraction and integration into the military machine and the war machine, this is not a path for social progress or for prosperity or for jobs or for anything like that. It's a path that's going to enrich the same billionaires and destroy Mother Earth and destroy people around the world as they're doing in Gaza and other places today. And so I think that lesson, working out how to engage people in discussion of what that lesson is important at this time when the Canadian government is saying, no, don't worry about it. We've got it all taken care of. Carney's a real smart guy. He's done this before. He knows how to get us out of the financial difficulties we're in. And the other aspect is that we, the people of Canada, need to be discussing what are we going to do to have that say? Have that say in what happens to the minerals in the ground. Have that say as to what happens to the rights of the Indigenous. Have that say in terms of what are we going to produce here that's going to build an economy that serves the needs of Canadian people, not the needs of these foreign billionaires and not the needs of the US war machine. I think these are important discussions to keep finding the way to develop those discussions based on the work you're doing. I think it's important. That's what I got to say.
2 points about what you just said. So when you referred to Albanese, you just so everyone knows, Steve was referring to Francesca Albanese, an Italian legal scholar and the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify because some people might not know that. Most people who are paying attention sorry. And my second point is just so we're clear, there's actually a precedent for this. If you look at Indonesia, right, for many years, right, Indonesia, which has a large nickel mining industry, right? They basically put a stop to the export of a raw nickel or and they basically said if you want to mine if you want our nickel, right, you're going to have to process it, and actually make things in this country, right? So if my point, I guess, is if Indonesia can do it, right? What's our excuse?
Well, Indonesia is not processing as much nickel as we are.
No, but they're
They-
making
they-
batteries
they-
now in
They
Indonesia.
made they used to ship everything out in either ore form or concentrate form to
China. Yeah.
essentially. And about 5 years ago, the government passed some laws or regulations that made them do a lot more processing in Indonesia. I think I'd have to look at exactly how much, but yeah. No, a country can pass laws or regulations that control what is done with the commodity before what is done with the period, but before it's sold or exported. Like during the period of the First World War, there was a lot of pressure on the Canadian government to make Inco build a nickel refinery in Canada. Well, they built one in Port Colborne. Um, it was sort of the government kind of it was built, but the government kind of didn't force it to. In the 30s, the same thing. I came up again. And the government refused to, didn't want to intervene in that way. So the government does have that power, but there's going to have to be huge amount of pressure from ordinary people to get that government to exercise that power.
Your name?
I'm Quinn.
Quinn.
So for like I get the being against like having our nickel being like sent to the States or like other countries which would be use it for the sort of for
Genocide.
yeah, for imperialism. But like if we were to make if our nickel was processed under private companies, what's stopping them from also using that for the same? Like, what are we turning the nickel into here in Canada?
Well, that would be a matter for Canada to
Yeah.
decide, though,
Yeah.
right? So if we lobbied our government, right? If we try, like the point is, it's under, it's in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So we can, lobby our government and change our government if need be, right? So that we decide then what that nickel is used for.
Yeah, I just don't trust Canada to not also use that nickel for imperialism under
That's fair.
like
Should be under public ownership.
yeah, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but every attempt to make things public has ended up in some kind of revolution,
Especially resources.
then coups, and then. Well, I have one question. It might sound very simplistic, but I just don't understand. Okay, so the idea that our tax dollars go towards genocide, abhorrent. But they don't really need our taxes. They can spend out money when they want to. They
So-
just create more money when they want to.
but
So why even do they need our taxes?
You mean Israel?
The people that control everything.
no,
Well, it
Why can't
devalues.
they just?
It devalues the.
because the
Go ahead, Quinn.
I the question's hard to answer. Like money is valued as like it's because if you create more, it reduces the value of
But they had no problem in 2008 to do that. They had no problem.
It did,
You know
but
what I
it
mean?
it does a little bit, but it's just
It was a major Trump.
yeah.
No, because if you print,
They
right?
created the
Uh,
trauma.
No, but
Yeah.
if you print, you know, another like $1 trillion, right? What $1 can buy becomes a lot less, right? So if you were able to, let's say before 2008, if you were able to buy, you know, a bottle of orange juice or a barrel of oil, right? For, I don't know, like $500, right? Now, after they printed it, because of you know, there's more dollars out there, that bottle of orange juice or that barrel of oil is now $1,000, right? That's a simplistic argument,
Yeah.
but it's, go ahead.
And what was the thing about public and revolutions and stuff that you said?
Well,
the idea of,
if you nationalize
right,
Yeah.
resource.
capitalism
Usually a
in
background.
certain sorts of rules that are,
Yeah.
that sound and feel incredible, but they're not.
We are to the United States as Ukraine is to Russia.
Is this
Pretty much.
Yeah,
is
Let's
this
face
a socialist org or
sorry?
is this a
It's,
socialist org?
Everyone's got their own separate.
Yeah,
Oh.
our primary,
But I am a lefty.
Yeah.
our primary concern, our primary directive is to basically educate and make people aware of the genocide that's happening in Gaza.
Yeah. Makes
And in in Palestine as a whole. You know, the extermination of the people, the culture, and the land, right? That's our directive, right? Now, do people have different ideologies? That's normal, right?
Yeah.
So are we socialist? Not, you know, not really. All right,
Yeah.
that's depends on the person you ask.
The organization doesn't, many of the people are.
Many of the people are, yeah.
And because, at this point here, we're talking about resource extraction.
Yeah,
That's exactly where these types of ideologies are writ large and come to the
Yeah.
fore. You know, who, as First Nations, you know, who gets to decide what happens to our resources? You know?
Well, I mean, we're go ahead.
Can I just add something here because I appreciate the point about ideologies. However, it really doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter what somebody's ideology is when they're talking about when the federal government and the provincial government are talking about extraction of resources from the Ring of Fire at the expense of the rights of Indigenous people, at the expense of Mother Earth, and they're peddling it with a big lie that this is going to bring prosperity and jobs for everyone. It doesn't matter to me what somebody's ideology is if they say, no, you can't sell that here because it's not going to fly, because we have our own experience with this reality from extraction of nickel, and it has not brought any of those things you're promising. So to say, to face what's actually happening in the country right now and where it's being taken by our political leaders, to me, that's not a question of ideology. That's a question of taking a political stand that we're not going to buy into this big myth and big lie that doing this resource extraction, doing this oil extraction, doing the mineral extraction is going to bring us prosperity. It is not. And at least get that discussion happening amongst the people like in Capriol. When they first talked about the Ring of Fire, it was, well, thank God, maybe they're finally going to build a smelter or a refinery in Capriol and there'll be some jobs. So there's a real desperate need for these things. And that means there's a real desperate need to explain to people that they're being fed a bucket of lies. It's not going to accomplish what they want to see accomplished, which is an economy that serves the needs of Canadian people.
Go ahead, Dale.
But that's an ethos that it depends on what you're based in. Okay, so we have all these jobs, but the profits are not going to the people in Sudbury.
Right. And I just want to make people aware, right? So we support the Indigenous Palestinian people, right? And we do not support, right? We're against the colonialism, the imperialism, the genocide that's happening to them, right? In the same way, we support the Indigenous people of Canada,
Yeah.
right? And we are against, the destruction of their homes and the destruction of, their basically the same thing, the colonialism, the imperialism that's being, that is being imposed on them.
So let's say we're facing the problem that we've always been facing, that everybody uses money as more value than anything else, and capitalism is the machine that makes that work. And until the whole world agrees that we're going to put down those machines and all agree that we're going to say from now on those types of things are publicly owned, that we all, I just can't see that happening in my lifetime. This is what we will be dealing with throughout the whole time. Every little piece that we can get is worth fighting for.
Part of the issue with organizing in especially for the West is that because we get money from selling our nickel to the military industrial complex. So it's sort of like even though now the sort of I would say America is, especially with them talking about annexing us and stuff, is sort of eating its own limbs to survive as their empire decays.
Well, right. I mean, it is decaying. Their empire is decaying.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why they're gonna invade or wanted to invade Venezuela, Greenland, Canada.
They're unmasking. They're becoming more overt with but
They're not weak. They've got military bases all over the world.
Their country, the United States, is destroying itself.
I agree.
Although, we have been saying that for several decades.
Right, but they were saying the same thing about the British Empire, and now it's a stupid little island in the North Atlantic.
Yeah, but they're not land-based. These are megalopolies. They own everything all over the world. They're global.
Yeah.
They're global.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Didn't mean to throw you off.
Yeah, I got thrown off. So a lot of the issues of organizing in the West is that they have is that people have, or some, there is a larger number of people which are even working class, of the concept of labor aristocracy, where it's where people have a sort of where working people slightly benefit from the imperialism of other countries. And if you look at the economies of, for instance, social democracies like Finland or Norway and places like that, it's it was funded via neocolonialism in Africa and places.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of the issues that are because there is a motivation to keep this system, but in a way which benefits sort of like a safer capitalism that benefits benefits working Canadians to some extent, gives them treats. But then doggy.
And to keep the natives happy.
Yes. But benefits workers to I would say actually natives are probably one of the people which are not are oppressed and are very unlikely to have been. Mainly the white Canadians that are given treats.
No, it's a phrase.
Well, I mean, the reason we use this argument, right, is because the argument of, look, genocide is bad, right?
Yeah.
But you need to couch it in a way that says, look, there are consequences.
Yes.
So you
there has to be a material, but generally for.
It's called the selfish argument.
Yeah, this is the selfish argument for it. But I think because of that, I think that I do think that that organizing is mainly possible through minority groups in Canada, because they are not as inclined to be they aren't because white people have sort of or white Canadians have sort of a like an advantage over other people, which would mainly see it as actively oppressive versus other people. Anyways, being in the first world countries are
I understand.
yeah
I understand. We're getting a little bit off topic.
yeah sorry.
Yeah,
Go
how about, it's about 5 after 7 now.
Yeah.
Time for
How
cake.
about we have our cake, our watermelon juice, we'll take the photographs.
Folks have spoken.
And then we can carry on the discussion kind of informally. I would like to talk about what are we going to do in the next year.
Yeah.
We've done a lot. Like this is,
It's a great start.
whether you like, it's not finished. It needs severe massaging, but I can see it done. And we can have it printed by March. And anyway, how about we do that? We have our cake. We'll have some juice. We'll take some photographs. There's 9 people here.
Oh.
We can maybe get
Have you seen the cake, Steve?
Yeah, Steve, before you sign off, at least see the cake.
We'll fax you a piece.
Right. You got the photo.
Are you sending it on Signal?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a sec. Let me just show you the cake. You need to see it, all right? Okay,
Okay.
We're a qualifying country.
here we go. So,
That's what you do.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm so happy they put the flag on.
We're a qualifying
thanks.
country.
That's a good sign.
There's only about 5.
it is not that color quite. It's brown and not gray.
do you see that, Steve?
Oh, yeah, it's changed a little bit.
Unfortunately, I'm still looking at your book.
Oh, okay, let me, are you really? Okay, let me see what I can do here, okay? One moment here. Just a sec. There.
He's gonna be like.
What about now?
Pavlov's dog, he's gonna be.
No, I'm back to the charts.
Oh, that's why. I know what's going on now. Give me a moment here. Let me see if I can fix this.
Still having it a little too good.
No, still.
Hey, listen, somebody
Get
take a
worse.
picture and
Eat it on.
send it to me. You've got my email, so I'd like to see the cake. Yeah.
Oh.
And enjoy. I'm going to sign off, guys. Good discussion, and I'm looking forward to hear. What,
Enjoy the cake virtually.
Take care.
Okay, Branko's gonna be the photographer. We want the cake.
There you go, Steve.
We want the cake in the picture. We want these 2 signs. And maybe if we should all come on this side, so we have the blank wall.
I'd rather not.
That's fine.
Opposite reasons.
Want to take the photo?
No.
You could be the cameraman.
I'll take that. I don't know how to.
Up soon.
It's a lot of propaganda going.
Okay, it's about 7:30, so we should be over pretty soon. We have to get out of here by about 7:45, and we're gonna have to back up. The one thing I wanted us to talk about a little bit was what we want to do next year. Now, one thing is like, do people think that what has been done here is useful and should be finished and printed, or are we off on a wrong tangent?
No, it should be made into a book or several booklets. But you've compiled this body of knowledge. And what we need to do is we need to figure out how do we translate that into action.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, what we want to do, one thing I think to do now, the next step is to we'll have 2 little booklets, and if we do another one, the Ring of Fire, by June, they'll have 3. Go out and get them into the bookstores and get them into the university and wherever, like, get them out.
Oh.
It's been hard to sort of do that and write another one at the same time.
Yeah.
It's just too much. Even things like the cake. I did this mental blocks. I thanked Anna for the cake because I screwed it up. Anyway, my proposal is that we finish this. If people were interested in taking a section and going through it in terms of readability, does all the information that we needed, is it there? Is the stuff there that, well, we don't really need? Is the stuff there that is really important, but nobody thought about it yet? And some of this, what's missing is hard to figure out then, like saying, well, this is right or this is wrong. Because when you don't, anyway, when you don't see it, you don't see it.
Material.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, but in terms of like repetition, right? Do we need, can we readability, stuff like that? That's someone like, just peer reviewing it, basically.
No.
Who wrote it?
He did.
I
Do you have a copy of this?
don't have it. I think I lost my.
In
That's actually the first one.
moving on this idea of what might
There's that one and this one.
to talk again about
No, but
what might come next.
that's paper.
Uh,
This is like a book.
Right.
the same
You gotta hand these
organizations,
back in, what you're saying?
so the same organizations that came out a couple of months ago with information that said that Canada was shipping bullets on the sly to Israel.
Using passenger planes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the same organizations that came up with that have come up with a new report.
Yeah.
And this one, they're saying that unbeknownst to us, that Adnan and what's her name, the previous foreign minister there,
Anand.
Anand and the previous one.
I was like, what?
No, who was the previous one?
Jolie?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
talking about. Anand and have been lying to us because there is actually rules on the books that certain materials such as nickel are to cross the border without any of the normal things that we go into it. So when they don't include that when they start talking about things that they ship, these things aren't included in their little list. So they've been saying, oh, we haven't been doing it, knowing full well that these things are being shipped, like wheel assemblies for jets and this powdering of bullets and things like this. But they've been doing this all along, and they're doing it all the time. And for them, it's just not included in their list of the mandate of things that they give to the public about what Canada ships. So they've been doing this all along, saying, "Oh, well, that's just the rules. That's just the rules, right?" It's like no way. Like how much more of this stuff are they doing like this? Like we can't trust what they're saying, but even what we're shipping. So when we talk about next steps, we've got the Ring of Fire coming up. We have a whole bunch of First Nations people, environmentalists who are very upset about this sort of thing, and they're going to be using those miniature, they claim they're going to be using those miniature nuclear reactors to power all of this. They've never made one. No one's seen one before.
Small modular.
And now they're saying that Canada is going to be the center for making these things. So now I'm thinking, is it going to be a can-do reactor? Or is it going to be a Fermi reactor? Because the Fermi sucks, but it's one the Americans use. The can-do is amazing, but you can still make bombs from what it makes. The thing about the can-dos is they can eat everybody else's lunch. I still think of all the designs they've got, the can-do is the best, because as we have radioactive waste from all the other nuclear powers, the can-do can use that as fuel and we can get rid of it. The others can't do that. However, nobody's made one of these things except people on the Americans have two of them on their new aircraft carriers, and all of their nuclear subs, of course, have one of these nuclear reactors. But when you say, well, you have these small nuclear reactors, what's the maintenance schedule like? How much do they cost? Because, well, that's military, so we can't tell you. And I'm trying to get anything about how good are these things? How come they have to have two aboard ship, right? If they're so good, why do you have two, right? So yeah, they can stay out. They can stay on the ocean for years at a time. But anyway, because the other thing is, First Nations are going to be against this. Also, that we know that they are still shipping things, even though they've told us that they're not. We know that they are. It seems to me that we are eventually going to get to the place where we're going to go into the field and we're going to be linking arms and we're going to be stopping shipments and we're going to be blocking railways and we're going to be standing with people. This is eventually coming, I think that we need to start considering that and how to do that in a way that we know will get us what we need without putting too many people in danger or screwing up other people's plans, to coordinate with what other people are doing in the same way.
Nice, the unions actually.
Shall we agree to, sorry,
Maybe
we
we'll
saying
find a
something,
lawyer.
Damon?
I want to approach them and say, can we talk to some of your lawyers so we can find somebody who'd be willing to, at very low cost, give us that support in court that we're going to need? Because really, the only way I survived for years with Greenpeace, and because the lawyers were always there and we had that support.
Damon, were you saying something, Damon or Charles?
Are you still with us, Damon?
Yeah, I'm still with you guys. I'm just listening.
Okay,
Yeah, what about?
Yeah,
do we want to do a couple of sessions on the Ring of Fire in January and February?
Well-
And in March, we can have a meeting.
Go ahead, Damon.
well, I was actually gonna say, I was thinking we can do like a forum or like a discussion on Zoom when it comes to like the Ring of Fire, like with PSS and with me as the Indigenous Peoples Committee co-chair, because the Ring of Fire is a very important, topic. It does affect many First Nations communities, and especially since that nickel is being used as like weapons, for Israel. So I think maybe this is something that we can work on together. It might be on January or February, and I can go see if my other co-chair colleague, Candace Young, might be interested too, because she
That'd be
is
great.
also pro-Palestine, and she is from Kettle and Stony Point First Nation.
Nice.
And I'll also reach out to Barry Weisleader, who's the NDP Socialist Caucus co-chair and Socialist Action chairman, to see if he might be interested in joining too. Because so that's something we could do together. Just
That's
putting that
great.
out there.
That's great. That's great. We need
He's also the
networking in the partnerships.
He's also the campaign manager for Eve's Angler, Barry Weisleader.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We,
Yeah, with the Socialist Caucus that
we were in the same group
the
originally.
leadership, right?
Nice.
So I think
Nice.
ideology is very
Are you following us anywhere? Are you in the list or anything like that?
Okay,
have that.
I think we should call it a night. It's about, well, it's 20 to 8. We do have a few minutes to spare, but we got to tidy up.
We gotta tidy up.
I want to book a room for January. We don't feel there's, you can keep one of those for I brought, that's why I made 8. Yeah, I thought you could have them. Did you have one of the?
I gave him
This is the-
The old one.
So where?
No, take both. The one is, that's our first one booklet. This is our second booklet, but it's in draft form. It's not a finished,
All right.
it's not a finished work yet. Okay, well, thank everybody for coming out, and we'll see you in January. And
Thank you for the cake and the watermelon.
Is there,
thank you for the cream cheese, though I didn't have it.
Their date?
Okay. Usually it's the first Thursday of the year.
It was nice hearing all of you. I'll be leaving. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles and Damon, for showing up.
Yeah.
Have a great day, guys.
Do we have a garbage one?
There's a number of scholars.